The Cursed Visitor. The colony of Ardent 7 was peaceful. Humans had built homes, farms, and cities under the twin suns of the distant planet. Children played in green fields, and adults worked hard to build a new future. It was a quiet place, far from the wars and dangers of the galaxy. Until the ship arrived. A dark, strange ship floated down from the sky one morning. It landed near the colony's central square, where people gathered to see who had come. Its surface was smooth and black, reflecting no light. The air felt cold, and a strange fear spread through the crowd. Then, the door opened. A tall figure stepped out. Its body was covered in dark armor, and its face was hidden behind a mask. But even without seeing its face, people felt something terrible in their hearts. Whispers spread fast. An alien. Who is it? Why do I feel so sad? The figure spoke, its voice soft but heavy like a distant echo. I am Saltor of the Ishtari. I bring no harm, but my presence brings sorrow. I have come to seek help. But no one heard the last words. They were already trapped in the strange power Saltor carried. People began to cry. Some held their heads, feeling unbearable heartbreak. Others fell to their knees, whispering names of lost loved ones. Even those with happy lives felt empty and broken. The HFY were known in legends. Wherever they went, they left sadness behind. No one knew why. Some believed they were cursed. Others believed they fed on sorrow. But one thing was clear. No one could survive near them for long. Governor Lion Hayes, the leader of Ardent 7, stepped forward, trying to stay calm. Leave, she said firmly. You are not welcome here. We cannot survive this pain. Zaltor's voice trembled. I do not wish to harm you, but I cannot stop what I am. I am cursed, and only a human can break the curse. Her eyes widened. A human. Why? I cannot explain now, but if the curse is not broken, it will spread. Not just here, but across the stars. The governor felt fear rise in her chest. She knew the risk. If this alien's curse spread, it could destroy the entire colony, maybe even Earth itself. We cannot help you, she whispered. We are not strong enough. Zaltor lowered his head. Then, all hope is lost. Before the alien could leave, a voice called out from the back of the crowd. I'll do it. The crowd turned to see a man step forward. He looked worn, his face tired from years of battles and losses. His name was Elias Vance, a former soldier who had seen too much pain in his life. His eyes were sharp, but his heart was heavy with memories he never shared. You? The governor asked, shocked. Elias, no. You've already lost too much. He gave a bitter smile. That's exactly why I can do this. I have nothing left to lose. Zaltor looked at him closely. You are willing to face the curse? Elias nodded. If it means saving them, yes. The alien's voice grew even softer. Once you face it, there is no turning back. Elias stepped closer. Then let's start. The crowd watched in silence as Elias and Zaltor walked to a quiet place outside the colony. No one followed. No one dared. Elias stood before the alien, feeling the weight of the moment. His heart was already heavy with past regrets. What more could this curse do to him? Zaltor removed his mask slowly. Elias saw the alien's eyes. They were deep, endless pools of light and darkness mixed together. The moment their eyes met, Elias felt a wave of emotion hit him like a storm. Pain, loss, heartbreak. Every sad moment of his life played in his mind at once. His parents' deaths, the friends he lost in war, the love he once had but could never keep, every failure, every regret, every tear he had ever shed. It all came rushing back, stronger than ever before. But this time, it wasn't just his pain. He felt the sorrow of many lives. Thousands, millions, an ocean of broken hearts drowning him. His knees hit the ground. His hands gripped the dirt. His breath grew short. For a moment, he wanted to give up, to let the sadness take him away. But then, he remembered why he was there. The colony, the people, the children, they needed him. His mind screamed against the pain. He held on with every bit of strength he had left. I won't give up. Zaltor watched in shock. No one had ever survived this long. Humans were strong, yes, but this was something more, something deeper. The pain didn't stop, but Elias didn't break. And then, darkness, silence. The screen fades to black. The heartbreak test. Elias Vance felt nothing but darkness around him. His body was frozen, his mind trapped. There was no sound, no light, only an endless void. Then, a whisper, soft and distant. Elias. His eyes opened suddenly. But he wasn't on Ardent 7 anymore. He stood in a familiar place, a small broken house on Earth. The wooden floor creaked under his boots. He knew this house well. It was the home he had lost long ago. Elias. The voice called again. His heart stopped. That voice, it couldn't be. He turned, and there she was. Anna. Her smile was warm, her eyes bright, just like he remembered. She stood there, wearing the simple blue dress he loved. She reached out to him, and for a moment, Elias forgot everything. Anna. He whispered, his voice cracking. He ran to her, but as he reached out, her figure disappeared like smoke. No, Elias shouted, his voice echoing. Suddenly, the house began to crack and burn around him. Flames climbed the walls, and the floor crumbled beneath his feet. Elias stumbled back, but the fire didn't touch him. Then he heard another voice, dark, cold, and heavy. Do you see now, human? This is the curse. This is what I carry every moment. Elias turned to see Zaltor standing in the middle of the flames, his glowing eyes filled with sorrow. Why are you showing me this? Elias demanded. This is your mind now, Zaltor replied. You have stepped into the curse. Here, your deepest heartbreak will break you, unless you fight it. Elias clenched his fists. He had faced loss before. What more could this curse do? But suddenly, the scene changed. He wasn't in the burning house anymore. He was standing in a battlefield, the ground soaked in blood and mud. The sounds of gunfire echoed in his ears. He knew this place. It was the war on Tauros IV, where he lost his entire squad. Vance, help us. He turned to see his old friends, Jared, Leon, and Ross, wounded and screaming for him. Elias, don't leave us. He ran to them. But no matter how fast he moved, they stayed far away. Their screams grew louder, filled with pain and fear. Elias felt his chest tighten. Stop this, he shouted. I couldn't save them. I tried. Zaltor's voice echoed again. This is what the curse does. It shatters every piece of your heart until there is nothing left. No one has survived it. Not even my own kind. Elias fell to his knees, memories crashing down on him like waves. He saw every failure, every moment where he wasn't enough. The weight was unbearable. For a moment, he wanted to let go. But then, something sparked in his mind. A small, quiet thought. Why did I come here? The image of Ardent 7 appeared in his mind. The people, the children, the friends he had made. They needed him. They were waiting. I can't give up, Elias whispered. He forced himself to stand, even as the memories pulled at him like chains. You are strong, human, Zaltor said softly, watching Elias fight. But strength alone will not break this curse. You must go deeper. Before Elias could ask what he meant, the world around him shifted again. Now he stood in front of a giant black door. It was ancient, covered in strange symbols that glowed faintly. This is not my memory, Elias said, confused. Zaltor appeared beside him. No, this is mine. Elias looked at him, surprised. Your memory. Zaltor nodded. To break the curse, you must face not only your heartbreak, but mine as well. Elias felt a chill. What's behind this door? Zaltor's voice was barely a whisper now. The beginning of the curse, and the greatest sorrow my kind has ever known. Elias took a deep breath. His heart was already heavy with his own pain. Could he survive someone else's? But he had come too far to turn back. Let's do this, Elias said, pushing the door open. The moment he stepped through, everything changed. He was no longer a soldier. He was no longer human. He was seeing through Zaltor's eyes now. He stood on a beautiful planet with tall golden trees and endless skies. This was HFY, home of the HFY. It was peaceful once. But then Elias felt something. A deep, sharp pain that cut through his very soul. He looked up to see thousands of HFY, all screaming in agony. Their eyes glowed brightly, filled with sorrow. And at the center of it all was a dark figure, a creature made of shadows and whispers. The Weeping One, Zaltor said. It cursed us for our pride. We defied it once. And this was its revenge. Elias felt the curse pulling at him again, stronger than before. This wasn't just one heartbreak. This was the sorrow of an entire species. His vision blurred, his mind on the edge of breaking. But then he heard a voice from his own mind. You're stronger than this, Elias. It was Anna's voice. Not a memory, but something else. Something real. Elias clenched his fists. He wouldn't break. Not now. Not ever. Bring it on, he growled. The test had just begun. The shattered world. Elias felt the weight of 1,000 broken souls pressing down on him. Every step he took felt heavier, every breath harder. He was no longer in his own mind. He was walking through the memories of Zaltor, through the sorrow of an entire alien race. The sky above him was dark and endless, filled with swirling shadows that whispered in an ancient, unknown language. The ground beneath his feet was cracked and dry, covered in ash. In the distance, Elias could see the ruins of a once great city, tall spires now broken and crumbling, streets empty and silent. This is HFY, isn't it? Elias asked softly. Zaltor's voice echoed in his mind. Yes, my home, or what is left of it. Elias walked forward, his eyes scanning the ruins. He could feel the sadness in the air, thick and suffocating. It wasn't just in his mind anymore. It was real. Suddenly, a figure appeared in the distance. Elias tensed, ready for a fight. But as the figure came closer, he realized it was not an enemy. It was a child. An HFY child, with large glowing eyes filled with tears. She looked at Elias, confused and frightened. Please, help me, she whispered. Elias reached out, but as soon as his hand got close, the child vanished into thin air, leaving only a faint echo of her voice behind. They're all gone, aren't they? Elias asked. Zaltor's voice was filled with pain. Yes, every HFY you see here is a memory, a shadow of what we once were. Elias clenched his fists. He had seen war, destruction, and death before. But this was different. This was not just a lost battle. This was an entire civilization shattered by sorrow. What did they do to deserve this? Elias asked, his voice filled with anger. We defied the Weeping One, Zaltor replied. We wanted freedom. We wanted to live without fear, but it saw our hope as a threat. So, it cursed us. It made us into creatures of sorrow. Now, anyone who looks at us feels our pain. And we feel theirs. Forever. Elias felt a chill run down his spine. That's why you came to me. Because humans don't break easily. Yes, we have tried with many species. All of them broke. But humans, you are different. You endure. Even when everything is taken from you, you keep fighting. Elias chuckled softly, though there was no humor in it. Yeah, that's what we do. He continued walking through the ruins, his eyes sharp, his mind focused. He knew there was something here, something important. The source of the curse, the key to breaking it. But then the ground shook violently. Elias stumbled, trying to keep his balance. Cracks spread through the ground, and from those cracks, dark figures began to rise. They were tall and thin, with hollow eyes and twisted faces. Their bodies were covered in black mist, and they moved like shadows. The Whalers, Daltor whispered. They are the guardians of the curse. They feed on sorrow and fear. If they catch you, you will be lost forever. Elias gritted his teeth. Great, just what I needed. The Whalers let out a terrifying scream that echoed through the ruins. Elias knew he had to move fast. He ran through the broken streets, the Whalers chasing him like shadows in the night. But no matter how fast he ran, they were always right behind him. You cannot outrun them, Xaltor warned. You must face them. Elias stopped, breathing hard. Face them? How? I don't even know what they are. They are sorrow made real. You cannot fight them with strength. You must fight them with your mind, with your heart. Elias closed his eyes, focusing. The Whalers circled him, their whispers growing louder, their shadows creeping closer. He thought of Anna, of his squad, of every person he had lost. The pain was real, but it did not break him. It made him stronger. When he opened his eyes, he faced the Whalers head-on. You want my sorrow? Take it, he growled. But you won't break me. The Whalers screamed louder, but Elias didn't move. He stood tall, unshaken. Slowly, the shadows began to fade, their whispers turning into silence. Elias exhaled deeply. Not bad for a human, huh? Xaltor's voice was soft. You are stronger than I thought. But the real challenge lies ahead. The source of the curse is waiting. Elias nodded, his eyes set with determination. Let's finish this. As he moved forward, the ruins around him began to change. The sky grew darker, and the air grew colder. In the distance, Elias saw a towering structure, a massive ancient temple covered in glowing symbols. He knew that inside that temple was the key to everything. But waiting for him inside was not just an ancient curse. It was something far worse. Something that even Elias Vance wasn't sure he could face. The unbreakable spirit. The ancient temple loomed before Elias, its jagged edges cutting into the dark sky like the bones of a forgotten giant. Strange symbols flickered across its surface, glowing faintly, pulsing like a dying heartbeat. Each pulse sent a shiver through the ground, as if the planet itself was in pain. Elias took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the journey behind him. He had faced his own heartbreak, survived the haunting Whalers, and walked through the ruins of an alien civilization destroyed by sorrow. But now, standing before the temple, he felt something new. Fear, not the fear of death. He had danced with death too many times to fear it. This was different. This was the fear of failure, of letting down those who believed in him, of facing a force older and darker than anything he had ever known. Are you ready, human? Xaltor's voice echoed in his mind, distant but steady. Elias chuckled softly, shaking off his nerves. Ready? Not really. But let's do this anyway. He pushed open the massive doors of the temple. They groaned in protest, as if they hadn't been touched in centuries. Inside, a long hallway stretched into the darkness, lined with strange statues that seemed to watch him as he walked by. With each step, the air grew colder, and the weight on his chest grew heavier. It felt like walking through a nightmare that was trying to pull him deeper into its grip. Suddenly, a voice, not Xaltor's, whispered through the darkness. Why do you fight, human? What drives you to face the inevitable? Elias stopped, looking around, but saw no one. Who's there? He demanded, his voice echoing off the stone walls. I am the beginning. I am the end. I am the sorrow that never fades. I am the weeping one. Elias felt a chill run down his spine. This was it, the source of the curse. The ancient being that had destroyed Saltor's people. Great. I was hoping for a warm welcome, Elias muttered. The voice chuckled softly, a sound that felt like glass breaking. Your humor will not protect you here. You carry so much pain, human. Why not let go? Surrender, and I will make it painless. Elias clenched his fists. Yeah, I've heard that before. Never works on me. The darkness around him shifted, and suddenly, Elias was no longer in the temple. He was back on Earth, standing in a familiar field where wildflowers danced in the breeze, and standing in front of him was Anna. Elias, she whispered, her eyes full of warmth. It's me. Elias felt his throat tighten. He wanted to believe it, wanted to run to her and never let go. But deep down, he knew. You're not real, he said quietly. Anna's smile faded. Why can't you let me in? Why do you keep fighting, Elias? Just stay. Stay with me. Elias closed his eyes, the pain sharp in his chest. I can't. People need me. They'll survive without you. The voice of the weeping one whispered through Anna's lips. But you are tired. Aren't you tired, Elias? Don't you deserve peace? Elias felt his legs weaken. He was tired. So tired. But then he remembered the people on Ardent 7, the children laughing, the friends waiting for him. If he gave up now, who would protect them? He opened his eyes, his voice firm. Deserve? Maybe. But peace isn't given, it's earned, and I'm not done earning it. The illusion shattered like glass, and Elias was back in the temple. But now, standing before him, was the weeping one. It was a towering figure, wrapped in shadows, its face hidden behind a mask of tears. Its eyes glowed with a haunting light, and every step it took seemed to make the air heavier. You are strong, human, but even strength has limits. Let me show you. Suddenly, Elias felt a sharp pain in his head. Images flashed before him, his worst memories, his deepest regrets, every failure, every loss. It was like drowning in sorrow. He fell to his knees, gasping for air. No one can carry this pain forever, the weeping one whispered. Not even you. Elias gritted his teeth, tears streaming down his face. But then, through the pain, he remembered something Anna once told him. Even when the world breaks you, Elias, never stop fighting. Because if you do, who will fight for those who can't? Elias let out a deep breath and whispered, Not today. He stood up slowly, shaking under the weight of the sorrow. Is that all you got? He growled. The weeping one recoiled slightly, surprised. Impossible. No one has ever resisted me this long. What? Are you? Elias smirked, his voice steady. I'm human, and we don't break easy. The temple shook violently as Elias took a step forward. For the first time in centuries, the weeping one felt something it had forgotten existed. Fear. Elias was not done yet. The curse's master. Elias Vance stood tall in the heart of the ancient temple, facing the monstrous figure of the weeping one. Its towering form shifted like smoke, eyes glowing with centuries of sorrow. But Elias didn't flinch. He had faced death, heartbreak, and endless pain. Yet here he stood, unbroken. You are a fool, human, the weeping one hissed, its voice like a sharp wind cutting through stone. Your strength means nothing here. I am eternal. I am sorrow itself. Elias smirked, wiping sweat from his brow. Yeah, well, eternity's about to have a really bad day. Without warning, the weeping one lunged forward, shadows swirling like a storm. Elias rolled to the side, barely avoiding the attack. The ground cracked where the shadows struck, sending echoes through the temple. You cannot outrun sorrow, the entity whispered, its voice surrounding him. It will always find you. Always. Elias gritted his teeth. He knew it wasn't wrong. Sorrow had found him countless times, on battlefields, in lost friendships, in empty nights filled with regret. But sorrow never broke him. It made him stronger. He reached into his belt, pulling out a small device, a simple flashlight. Flicking it on, a beam of light cut through the shadows, causing the weeping one to recoil. "Light still bothers you, huh?" Elias muttered. "Good to know. Light cannot save you." The weeping one's voice trembled, but not from fear, from anger. Elias knew he couldn't fight this creature with weapons. Bullets couldn't kill sorrow. Bombs couldn't destroy heartbreak. He needed something more. "Zaltor," he whispered in his mind. "I need answers. Fast." Zaltor's voice, calm despite the danger, echoed back. "The weeping one feeds on sorrow. It was born from the pain of countless worlds. To defeat it, you must offer something it cannot consume." Elias ducked behind a pillar as shadows slashed through the air. "Something it can't consume. Like what? Happiness? Hope? A damn therapy session." Zaltor's response was clear. "Yes. Hope." Elias blinked. "Hope? Are you serious? Hope is stronger than sorrow. It is the one thing the weeping one cannot break. But be warned, Elias, hope is not a weapon. It is a choice." Elias chuckled under his breath. "Great, so I just need to out-hope an ancient being of eternal sadness. Easy." He thought of the colony of Ardent 7, of the people counting on him. He thought of Anna's smile, of his friends who believed in him. They didn't need him to be perfect. They just needed him to keep fighting. Taking a deep breath, Elias stepped out from behind the pillar. "Hey, Turjerker," he shouted. The weeping one turned sharply, shadows rippling. "You dare mock me?" "Yeah, I dare," Elias replied, grinning. "You think you've won just because you bring sorrow wherever you go. Nah, humans are stubborn. We fall, we break, but we always get back up. Always." The weeping one lunged again, but this time, Elias didn't run. He stood firm, his eyes locked on the creature's glowing stare. "No." It roared, as if sensing something was wrong. Elias didn't fight the sorrow this time. He embraced it. Every painful memory, every regret, every heartbreak. He accepted them, but in accepting them, he also remembered the moments that kept him going. The laughter of his friends, the beauty of the stars, the dreams of tomorrow. "Pain doesn't scare me," Elias said softly, "because pain means I'm still alive. And as long as I'm alive, I'll keep hoping." A soft glow began to form around him. It wasn't bright, but it was steady, like a single candle in a vast, dark room. The weeping one screamed, shadows flickering like dying flames. "No, no, this cannot be. Hope is fleeting. Hope dies." Elias stepped forward. "Yeah, sometimes it does. But we always find it again." The glow around him grew stronger. The darkness in the temple began to fade, cracks of light piercing through the walls. The weeping one shrank back, its form growing weaker. "Please, no more," the creature whispered, its voice now trembling with fear. Elias felt a pang of sympathy. Even this ancient being, so full of sorrow, was afraid. Afraid of being forgotten. Afraid of being alone. "Elias," Zaltor whispered, "the choice is yours. Destroy it, or free it." Elias looked at the weeping one, now reduced to a shadow of its former self. He thought about all the pain it had caused, but he also thought about what Zaltor said. Hope was a choice. He knelt down, looking at the creature. "I'm not here to destroy you," Elias said softly. "I'm here to end the pain. Yours too." The weeping one blinked, its glowing eyes wide with confusion. Elias reached out, touching the shadow gently. "Let go," he whispered. "It's time to let go." The temple filled with light as the weeping one let out one final soft sigh. Its shadowy form dissolved into the light, and the weight in the air lifted. The curse was breaking. Elias felt the ground beneath him shift. The temple was disappearing. He was being pulled back to Ardent 7. When he opened his eyes, he was lying on the ground outside the colony. The sky was clear, and the air felt light. Zaltor stood beside him, no longer in armor, no longer haunted by sorrow. "You did it, Elias. The curse, it's broken." Elias smirked weakly. "Yeah, no big deal." He closed his eyes, exhaustion finally taking him. But in his heart, he knew one thing. Humanity had won. The last gamble. Elias Vance opened his eyes slowly, feeling the warm sun of Ardent 7 on his face. His body ached. His mind felt like it had been through a storm, but he was alive. More importantly, he had won. The curse that haunted the HFY was gone. The endless sorrow that broke hearts and minds had finally lifted. Elias had done the impossible. But as he sat up, blinking against the light, he knew it wasn't over yet. "Elias," Zaltor's calm voice greeted him. The alien stood nearby, his glowing eyes no longer filled with sadness. For the first time, Elias saw something new in Zaltor's expression. "Peace. You look different," Elias muttered, rubbing his neck. "Less gloomy." "The curse is broken," Zaltor replied. "Because of you. But there is one last thing left to do." Elias raised an eyebrow. "Of course there is. Can't ever catch a break, huh?" Zaltor extended a hand, helping Elias to his feet. "The curse was born from an ancient power. Its end has left a void. That void must be filled, or something worse will take its place." Elias frowned. "Worse? Like what? More creepy shadow monsters?" "Much worse." Zaltor's voice grew serious. "Without the curse, the balance of emotions across the galaxy is shifting. Sorrow, fear, and rage will grow stronger if no one holds them back." Elias sighed, stretching his sore muscles. "Okay, so who's gonna hold back the bad vibes? Don't tell me it's me." Zaltor shook his head. "No, not you. But someone must become the new guardian of emotions. Someone strong. Someone who understands pain and hope." Elias stared at him, realization dawning. "You?" Zaltor nodded. "I was once part of the curse. Now I can become its balance. But I need your help one last time." Elias rubbed the back of his neck. "Let me guess. It's gonna be dangerous, painful, and possibly deadly." "Yes," Zaltor replied simply. Elias chuckled. "Figures. All right. Let's do it. What's the plan?" The two stood before a massive stone gateway, hidden deep within the forests of Ardent 7. The gateway pulsed with a strange, otherworldly energy. "This is the gateway of emotions," Zaltor explained. "Once opened, it will connect to every mind in the galaxy. But to control it, I must bind my essence to it." Elias crossed his arms. "And let me guess, that's where I come in." "Yes, you must guide me through the binding process. But the gateway will fight back. It will test us both." Elias grinned. "Well, it wouldn't be fun if it was easy." They placed their hands on the gateway, and instantly, the world around them disappeared. Elias found himself standing on a floating platform in an endless void. Bright orbs of light floated around him, each one a memory, an emotion from someone across the galaxy. Zaltor stood beside him. "We must connect to each orb without losing ourselves. Each one will show us a memory filled with strong emotions. If we fail, we will be lost forever." Elias nodded. "Got it. Don't get lost. Let's do this." They reached for the first orb. Suddenly, Elias was no longer himself. He was a young girl, hiding in the ruins of a destroyed city, fear gripping her heart as enemy ships flew overhead. He felt her terror, her helplessness. "Stay focused, Elias." Zaltor's voice echoed in his mind. Elias took a deep breath, calming the girl's fear with his own strength. The orb glowed brighter and then vanished. One down. They reached for the next orb. Elias was now a grieving father, holding the lifeless body of his child. The sorrow was overwhelming, almost drowning him. But Elias remembered his own losses and whispered, "It's okay. You'll carry them with you, always." The sorrow eased, and the orb faded. One by one, they faced each orb: fear, anger, love, loss, hope, despair. Each one tested them, pushed them to their limits. But Elias refused to break, and Zaltor stood strong beside him. Finally, they reached the last orb. But this one was different. It was darker, heavier. As they touched it, Elias felt something familiar. It was the Weeping One. Its essence was still there, waiting, angry. "You destroyed me," the voice roared, "but I will not be forgotten." Elias clenched his fists. "You again? Thought I got rid of you. You cannot erase sorrow, human. I will always exist." Elias smirked. "Maybe, but you won't control us anymore." Zaltor stepped forward, his eyes glowing bright. "I will be the guardian now. Your time is over." With a final surge of strength, they pushed the Weeping One's essence into the void, sealing it away forever. The gateway glowed brightly, and Zaltor's body began to fade into light. "Zaltor," Elias shouted. "This is my choice, Elias." Zaltor replied calmly, "I will watch over the galaxy, over every emotion, every heart. And you will be remembered as the one who made it possible." Elias felt a lump in his throat. "Take care, old friend." Zaltor smiled softly before disappearing into the light. Elias woke up outside the gateway, alone but at peace. The weight in the air was gone. The curse was gone. As he walked back to the colony, he looked up at the stars and whispered, "We're still here, and we're not done yet." Humanity had once again shown the universe what it meant to endure. The human who changed fate. The night sky over Ardent 7 was unusually clear. Stars shimmered brightly, as if celebrating the end of an ancient sorrow. Elias Vance sat alone on a grassy hill, staring at the endless universe above him. His body still ached from the trials he had faced, but his mind felt strangely calm. It was over. The curse that haunted the HFY was broken. The monstrous Weeping One was sealed away, and his friend, Zaltor, now served as the silent guardian of emotions across the galaxy. Elias let out a slow breath, feeling both relief and a strange emptiness. "Guess I'm not used to quiet," he muttered to himself. Footsteps crunched softly behind him. Elias didn't turn. He already knew who it was. Governor Lion Hayes sat down beside him, her sharp eyes studying his face. "You saved us," she said quietly. Elias chuckled dryly. "Not really good at taking credit, Governor." "You don't have to," Lion replied. "We all know what you did." For a moment, they sat in silence, watching the stars. Finally, Lion spoke again, her voice softer. "Will you stay?" Elias leaned back on his hands, thinking. "I don't know," he admitted. "After everything, it's hard to sit still." She nodded, understanding. "Wherever you go, Elias, you'll always have a home here." Elias looked at her, a small smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. "Thanks. That means a lot." The next morning, the entire colony gathered in the central square. People cheered when Elias appeared, clapping and calling his name. Children ran up to him, their eyes full of admiration. Elias felt awkward under all the attention, but he smiled and ruffled their hair. Dr. Marlowe, the colony's head scientist, approached him, holding a small device. "We recorded everything we could about your journey," she said. "The galaxy needs to know what you did." Elias shook his head. "I didn't do it for fame." "I know," Marlowe replied. "But sometimes stories are what keep people going. Your story will give others hope." Elias thought about that for a moment. "All right," he agreed softly. "But don't make me sound too perfect. I messed up a lot." Marlowe laughed. "Perfection is boring. Your flaws make you human." As the day went on, Elias found himself wandering through the colony, taking in the quiet life he had fought to protect. He passed by the training grounds, where young soldiers practiced their aim. He remembered his own days as a young recruit, full of fire and dreams. He stopped at the market, where people traded food, tools, and stories. He listened as an old man told a group of kids about the human who faced sorrow and didn't break. Elias shook his head, amused. Finally, he reached the memorial wall, where names of lost colonists were engraved. He traced his fingers over the cold stone, thinking of all the people he had lost along the way. "Anna," he whispered, "I hope I made you proud." That night, Elias sat alone in his small quarters, packing a simple bag. He wasn't sure where he would go next, but he knew staying still wasn't in his nature. Suddenly, his communicator beeped. Elias frowned and opened it. A familiar voice spoke, leaving without saying goodbye. Typical. Elias blinked, his heart skipping. "Fideltor, how are you? I am connected to every emotion in the galaxy now, Elias, including yours. Hard to ignore you when you're always so restless." Elias chuckled, leaning back in his chair. "Miss me already?" "I miss our conversations," Zaltor admitted. "Emotions are difficult. So many hearts, so many feelings. But your mind is clear, focused. It helps me." Elias smirked. "Guess you're stuck with me then." "It seems so," Zaltor replied. "Where will you go?" Elias thought for a moment. "Don't know. The galaxy's big. Plenty of places that need help." "Then I will watch over you, as you watch over them," Zaltor said. Elias felt a lump in his throat, but quickly covered it with a grin. "Sounds like a deal, old friend." As the call ended, Elias grabbed his bag, slung it over his shoulder, and headed for the colony spaceport. He wasn't a hero. He was just a man who kept getting back up. And wherever there was a fight worth fighting, Elias Vance would be there. Because that's what humans do. They endure, they fight, they hope.